Good afternoon. Let me give you a brief idea what's going to happen. The Secretary for Transport and Housing will say a few words, and then Dr. Jacob Kam, CEO of MTR, will also say a few words before we have a Q&A session. Over to you, Mr. Frank Chan, Secretary for Transport and Housing. Thank you. Good afternoon, friends from the media. I'd like to announce to you that the Israel Line Cross-harbour extension is scheduled to be commissioned on the 15th of May. It will be the fourth cross-harbour railway of Hong Kong. The new exhibition center located at the northern part of Wan Chai and Hong Kong Station and the extension of Admiralty Station will also be commissioned. With the commissioning of the cross-harbour extension, without making any transfer, members of the public can travel from the northeastern part of the NT to the Hong Kong Island, and the traveling time will be reduced from 90 minutes to 7 minutes from Hong Kong to Hong Kong Island, providing a more expeditious and convenient way of traveling. The whole Israel will link up the northeastern part of NT, the central of Kowloon, as well as Hong Kong Island. Members of the public can use the 4 transfers along the line, i.e. Tower Station, Kowloon Station, Hong Kong Station, and Admiralty Station to transit to Tuen Ma Station, Kwun Tong Station, Tuen Wan Station, Hong Kong Island, as well as the South Island line, 5 lines in total. The Admiralty Station will be the transfer station for the Tuen Wan line, the South Island line, the Israel, as well as the Hong Kong Island line. It will be a super station. With the commissioning of the Israel line cross-harbour extension, the Transport Department will enhance the shuttle services at Exhibition Centre and will also monitor the public transport services along the line and make appropriate adjustment. Lastly, I'd like to thank all government departments as well as the MTRCL team for their continuous efforts. Even though we were under very severe epidemic situation, they were able to ensure that the critical work processes could be completed smoothly so that the Israel Line Cross-harbour extension could be commissioned on the 15th of May to serve the traveling public. And now give the floor to Dr. Jacob Kam, CEO of MTR, to give us a detailed explanation. Thank you. Thank you, Secretary. Good afternoon, friends from the media. As announced by the Secretary, the massive project of the Israel Line Cross-harbour extension is completely smoothly and has gone through all the necessary evaluations. So on the 15th of May, that is the Sunday after the next, without making any transit, members of the public can travel from the northeastern part of NT to town centre, namely Central, Admiralty, and Wan Chai. This will inject new impetus into this 100-year-old Israel line. There will be 16 stations, including the newly completed exhibition center. There will be new platforms at extended Hong Kong Station and extended Admiralty Station. We've introduced a new fleet. So from 7 minutes, members of the public can travel from Hong Kong to Admiralty. It will be even more convenient and expeditious, and there will be a new choice for you to cross the harbour. So the exhibition center will also be commissioned at the same time. It's near the HKCEC and is at Wan Chai North. It will be most useful in promoting the development of tourism and our conference and exhibition business. Admiralty Station will be super station, which will be a transit point for 4 major lines. Well, there will be more choices for the public than before. My colleagues will be at the Admiralty Station today to explain to the public or to the media the different arrangements. Now, for the whole station. In addition to the extension of the Hong Kong station and the Admiralty station, we have built exhibition center. We have new facilities, and we have also introduced a new fleet, and we have also built new connections. We have overcome tremendous challenges. I'd like to thank everyone involved in the MTRCL and also the hard work of our contractors. Most of all, I'd like to thank government departments for their full support and also the support of the community. The Tuen Ma line was commissioned in last June, linking up the western and eastern part of the NT, and now we have this cross-harbour extension linking up the northeast NT of Hong Kong. And I'm sure you're all excited as I am. In the coming few weeks, we will make sure that everything is well prepared so that we can provide safe, reliable, quality, and sustainable services to the public. We'll keep Hong Kong moving. Thank you. Thank you. Q&As. Please identify yourselves and also the organizations you represent before you ask questions. The lady in black over that side. Good afternoon. I'm from Mingpao. Now, I'd like to know the patronage of Israel line and also the Hong Kong line at the peak hours. People say that both lines are already quite congested with the commissioning of the cross-harbour extension will really Admiralty Station burst to its seams. And we'd like to know about the signaling system. Now, how would you conclude the government's performance in the implementation and also monitoring of railway works? Do you think the railway monitoring department can be set up within this term of the government? Now, the cross-harbour extension will be commissioned ahead of schedule. Can you tell us the reason why? Is it because you want to have it done before a new term of government starts?
First of all, for the Israel line, if you have paid attention, when Tuen Ma line was commissioned, our original expectation is that there would be 18% of passengers who would change line. They would use the Tuen Ma line to Kwun Tong line. But today, when we look at the actual situation, well, the diversion rate is as high as 30% in terms of changing lines. So under the pandemic, people's commuting habits has changed. And the most important point is that during the planning process, well, MTRCL and the government had done an assessment of people's commuting habit and traffic volume. So after commissioning of the Israel line cross-harbour section, well, we believe that the capacity will be able to cope with residents' demand. As regards progress of construction, I have said just now that the relevant government departments and MTRCL have worked really hard. The pandemic was very severe and challenging, but then cooperation among the teams is very close, and work is being people-oriented. We would like to offer convenience to people, so the progress is satisfactory and smooth. So that's why on the 15th of May, it can be commissioned for passengers. As regards past happenings, I guess you all know that right now, if we look back, a lot of improvements works are underway. So in terms of capacity enhancement, monitoring enhancement, and supervision of works, relevant work have been done. We should not forget about the past, and we should also take reference from lessons learned. Thank you. Next question, the one in white. I'm from RTHK. My question is, in the future, we will have 9-compartment train, and now we have not taken into consideration the reopening of border. So in the future, during peak hours, when people need to commute, well, they may have to wait like 2-3 trains. They may not be able to get onto the first train. So how are you going to solve the problem in relation to fares? Well, there are different fares for the same district, and the fare is lower for long haul and so on. So it seems that the fare variance is quite big. And then for through train, is it going to be cancelled between Guangzhou and Hong Kong? If it is cancelled, then how much help will there be to the frequency of service? Thank you. Okay, let me first comment on busy hours. No matter whether you are talking about East Rail Line or other railway lines, MTRCL will look at the actual circumstances. I sometimes take the MTR. For example, when I go off work, I go from Admiralty Station to Kowloon, and on the platform, I very often see many people having to wait for like 2 to 3 trains. But after 2 to 3 trains, there would be one train that is empty. So it takes passengers at the Admiralty Station so that they can return home. So in the future, I believe that the same approach will be adopted for East Rail Line. So during or for the busy sections, MTRCL will deploy short-haul trains to take passengers on their trip. And then as regards the through train, well, in the mainland, there is high-speed rail network expansion and extension, and the coverage is very wide. So given these circumstances, the SARG and the relevant mainland departments are working on the arrangement of this city metro rail, and we are making arrangement accordingly. So we will let you know in due course. As regards train fares, usually we will look at the length of the journey to work out the fares. However, for East Rail, there is historical reason. It serves local journeys. At the same time, there are cross-border journeys. For cross-border journeys, well, the fare is relatively higher, even though the distance may be the same. So it can actually compensate for the fare for residents commuting. So there are variances in the fares for different journeys, and we are very clear of the historical reason. Every year during fare adjustment, there would be some flexibility so that the fare variance can be shortened as much as possible. Next, the second lady over there, please. That one. I'm from Now TV. My name is Lee Tong Yan. I have a question about fares. Just now the secretary said that there is cross-border journey, so that's why. Now the problem is, if you take East Rail Line to cross the harbour, it is more expensive than Tsuen Wan Line. Especially if you go to South Horizons or Tin Hau, then it is more expensive than Tsuen Wan Line by $2. And we can't really see this so-called offsetting or subsidy. So East Rail Line is really more expensive. So this time, when you are at this 100th anniversary, so to speak, why don't you adjust the fare? What is the difficulty? When Tsuen Ma Line was commissioned, there were questions asked about fares. And this time, this problem is still not solved with the new line being commissioned. So why is it that traveling time is shorter, but then the fare is not adjusted? So for the change of the number of compartments from 12 to 9, well, every morning people can't get onto the train. So do you have data after the service is commissioned at Hong Kong Station? How many more trains will there be during busy hours? And how many empty trains will you deploy to cope with passenger demand? Then concerning bus, impact on bus. Just now the secretary said that you will look at overall traffic condition. Now, right now, what is your communication with the bus company? Is that bus company which is going to apply for adjusting their service or reducing service frequency? Well, will the situation be worse than when Tsuen Ma Line was commissioned? When Tsuen Ma Line was commissioned, many bus companies have reduced their service frequency, and there is a lot of reaction in different districts. So what are you going to do? Will you ask bus companies to reduce or to do more point-to-point service instead of going around the district in order to enhance their competitiveness? Well, concerning the principle behind fares, I had already given an answer. Later on, I will ask Dr. Kam to elaborate more, especially on the change from 12 compartments to 9. Now, concerning the impact on bus, the SARG attaches a lot of importance to public transport service. In Hong Kong, 90% of people's commuting journeys or trips are on public transport. So no matter whether we're talking about railway or bus or minibus or residential development, shuttle, and so on, and taxis, there are positionings of all those, and each mode has its own role to play. We have to make sure that each mode of public transport has an ecology where it can be sustainable and commercially viable. So when a new railway line is introduced, we will work with the company, the operator, to make adjustment based on people's commuting habits. But how does it change? Do people use more MTR or other modes of transport? We have to pay attention and make adjustment based on the latest situation. Now I will pass the floor to Dr. Kam. Thank you, Secretary. Comparing East Rail Line crossing the harbour and Tuen Ma Line, under the original plan, there is strategic improvement. So this is a strategic railway. It doesn't only connect the east and west and north and south. More choices are offered to passengers so that there is more convenience and speed. So when there is choice, that means that there can be triage or diversion. So when passengers need to take the train service, the traveling time can be shortened. So we want to expedite circulation of traffic. So in this way, the overall capacity, passenger capacity, can be enhanced. Just now, the Secretary said that we will pay attention and monitor passengers' habit of commuting. And we will try our best to improve our service frequency to meet passengers' needs. As regards fares, as said just now, when the network expands, there will be new combination of trips. Passengers will choose their trip combination based on their needs. This time, for the East Railway Cross-harbour section, there is one new station, that is Hong Kong CEC. And then the fare for that station will be adjusted, but the fare for other stations or trips will not change. And then for departure from Mong Kok East, actually, the duration is shorter and it is more accessible to different parts of the city. But then the fare is not being adjusted. Thank you. Do we have English questions?
Good afternoon from RTHK. So a few questions. First is, how much of a surge in passengers is the MTR expecting after the extension is open, given that the trains will now be operating with 9 carriages instead of 12? Would it overburden the East Rail Line? The second is, why is the corporation confident that the harbour crossing extension can open earlier than the latest target date that's set in June or July this year? Should people be worried about possible glitches in the route, given what we have seen previously in the construction projects? And lastly, how will authorities address the pricing differences as mentioned just now? Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Oh, first and foremost, we have to realize that for any train, new or old, should they be put into operation, they must be sound and safe. By sound and safe, we mean that all the systems involving in the operation, including signaling system, operating system, all electrical and mechanical service system, the permanent way and everything of it would be safe and sound. Safe in the sense of the approval and investigation and supervision by the authorities, like the Fire Services Department, the Environmental Department, the Electrical and Mechanical Service Department, and also the Highway Department. So they are under very close scrutiny, examination, before they were allowed to start operate. And I'm sure that Hong Kong's railway is one of the best across the globe. And there's no doubt that we have confidence that the new Cross-harbour extension will operate very smoothly in due course. As regards to the pricing, I'll leave it to invite Dr. Gam to explain in more details.
Thank you. As the railway network continues to expand, for the same pair of origin to destination, passengers will have more choices of which routes they want to take. For example, when we have a new connection, they will be able to choose either, for example, for crossing the harbor, now they have a new choice. They can take the Israel line instead of, for example, the Tsuen Wan line or Jiangguanhou line. But the fare setting, it's based on the origin and destination irrespective of which routes they will take. So, for example, just now we mentioned the Mong Kok East station. In fact, the same prices have been set for the same destinations starting from Mong Kok East, although with the new route, they can actually get to their destinations faster. But there is no change in price. The only new prices are set for the new station, which is Exhibition Centre Station.
我哋最後一條問題，
Last question. The lady in white in the second last row. I'm from Cable TV. Good afternoon. Well, during the same region, but there will be a different fares. So do you have a timetable to resolve that? And we're told that 230,000 bus passengers will switch to MTRCL. Another 17 departures will be added. Do you think that is sufficient to accommodate the additional patronage? Can you expect how many passengers will switch to ride the WMTRCL? And now the whole Sha Tin Central Link is completed. Have you got the final cost, and how much is the cost over one run? We're told that $2 billion would be set aside by the MTRCL to cover the cost overrun related to the Hong Kong station. I'd like to know whether the budget has been increased since. Well, all railway projects require funding approval from the MTR, from the LATCO, and the final financial provision has been passed by LATCO. So the government's commitment is not going to change. As regards the respective responsibilities, we are now following up with MTRCL, and it's not convenient for me to disclose the details. As regards the price setting, I defer to Dr. Kam. Now, when it comes to the fares, we've only got one new station open this time, and that is the Exhibition Centre. Of course, we have to fix the price for Exhibition Centre, but for the same pair of origin and destination, the price is just the same. Of course, the stations along the Israel line can now cross the harbor, and it will be more expeditious, and there will be more choices, but then the prices will be the same. That ends the media session. Thank you very much.